It's here. The latest and greatest from GoPro. I can't wait to use it.
A few moments later.
I've always loved the idea of having the newest gadget, the newest toy, the newest thing available, often to the detriment of my bank account. But thankfully for the last year, I've been lucky enough to have a steady, well-paying job, which means I've actually been able to afford some newer tech. And ironically, being able to actually buy newer things has made me hesitant about buying new things. With new MacBook Pros out and DJI recently unveiling their GoPro Killer, there will always be something newer and cooler than what you have, which will mean you'll always be tempted to buy the newest thing available. But oftentimes it'll come in the mail, it'll be great for a few days, but eventually the magic will wear off and you'll realize that you've just spent $1,000 on a drone that you'll never use. That's happened to me before. So today I'm going to use 3 stories of my own to illustrate why you should be hesitant when buying new gear and what you might want to consider. Firstly, we're going to talk about my GoPro, a camera that I really like. It's got great stabilization, the footage is pretty good. Ultimately, it's a very worthwhile camera for the price, but maybe not for long. So last June, I think, I bought the latest GoPro Hero 6. And lost it in the ocean. But I was hearing rumors of a new GoPro on the horizon, the Hero 7. It was gonna have 4K 60 hyper smooth stabilized video. It was gonna be magical. So I waited a few weeks for this bad boy to be unveiled and immediately bought it from a place that was doing a 20% off launch sale, which was crazy awesome, but I got this for about $500. And look, I was happy. It's a great camera, even put up against DJI's latest offerings. Now, my purpose for the GoPro was to essentially use it as a spare wide-angle camera for both podcasts, events, videos, just the whole thing. And essentially, I was going to be using this thing a lot. So I was hoping it would be both feature-packed and useful. That's called being functional. But quickly, I learned there were some caveats. It worked great as a wide angle, but the audio on it wasn't great, which is fine because I have mics. Hello, is this good? Is this good content? Additionally, it couldn't record 4K for too long without pausing, skipping frames, or just becoming frozen, which was great to know because the first podcast I tried to record with this thing, I had it in 4K, stabilization on, Pro Tune, and I barely got 10 minutes of usable footage. But you turn it down to 1080, you turn stabilization off, and you can record for just as long as you want, and it becomes a great wide-angle camera. So I've used it, it's worked well, and I know exactly how this thing works, so it's time to take it out and try it in the wild. I take it to a wedding to shoot basically wide angles for the ceremony and the speeches. The ceremony goes great, I get some great footage, but when it comes to the speeches, this happens. The damn thing is glitching to hell. Now, thankfully, I didn't really need a wide angle for the speeches, but that's not really an ideal time to find out your GoPro is stuck in the matrix. Now, I think the problem was just mainly with the screen because I could still record video, it just meant I couldn't see what I was filming at the time until hours later using a laptop, which was not ideal in any way, but nevertheless, I persisted. I used it for a few more weeks filming the podcast, and I even took this thing to Africa where I did get some great footage. But once I got home, I had to finally bite the bullet, send it back to GoPro, and get a replacement for free minus shipping. Now, the point of this story is that new products have not been let out into the wild. Consumers haven't had time to play around with them and figure out all the bugs and flaws with them, so oftentimes you, as the consumer, end up being a guinea pig of sorts and discovering problems rather than finding problems that already have solutions. Oftentimes what happens is you just have to cross your fingers, send your product off, and hope they get back to you in a short amount of time. Because you don't know whether the problem is something that it might take the engineers weeks to figure out, or if it's something that in 2 months' time there'll be a whole dedicated forum on how to fix it yourself at home. So that's the risk you run when buying new products, and GoPro doesn't really have a support Twitter handle like Adobe or YouTube do, so I had to phone them up and get support over the phone. And when I showed the guy the video of the GoPro glitching out, he was totally perplexed. He said he had never seen that happen in one of their products before. So in my case, it was a problem that you probably couldn't fix at home. But again, any product out in the wild that's new, that hasn't been product tested by consumers, you're gonna run into who knows what kind of problems. Always beware of the guinea pig possibility. The second story is about my mic. Now, for years, I've had this old school Rode VideoMic Pro. It works great, but the old gal was starting to have a break in the wire, and so I figured before the audio cut out in the middle of a Hello, is it working? Hello? Is this good content? I figured before this guy gave me any serious trouble with video production, I would upgrade to the latest and greatest. So I did just that. I bought the new Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, which has some cool new features over this guy, and it's a great mic. Came out a few years ago, 2017, I believe, so it's not brand new, but it was new to me. It was good to have a new mic, and also to have a spare mic with this guy still working, but obviously being potentially gonna break soon. So after a few months of using it and enjoying it, actually on the first day we landed in Africa, I was excited to use this thing, get some great audio and film all while I was on holiday, but it stopped working. It wouldn't turn on, it wouldn't charge, it just didn't want to work. So for the entire holiday, I kept it in my suitcase, it collected a bit of dust, and when I got home, I emailed Rode, sent it back in, and got a replacement for free, minus shipping. Now what they told me was that inside the microphone, the battery pin connector was bent out of shape, and that this was actually done in the manufacturing process, which is why it couldn't get a proper connection, which is why it wouldn't turn on. But what that meant was that in the box, when I bought it at the store, it was already a dud before I'd even looked at it. And that's the second lesson. You're never safe when buying any tech product, new or old. It could always just be a dud.
You got the dud!
The third and final story for today revolves around my drone. Now, the first drone I actually bought was this DJI Phantom 3, which after a few weeks I flew into a tree and broke it. Now, it actually probably still works, but as you can see, I broke off the camera, so it's not gonna get any footage. Oh, a spare SD card. Huh. But after a few months of grieving and mourning over my old dead drone, I bought this DJI Mavic Air, which at the time of purchase was not the cheapest drone that DJI sold, but also not the most expensive. It was right in the middle, and for me, that was great because it was a big upgrade from what I had before, and I got some great footage off of this thing. Stunning shots, and I love this product. So naturally, I took it to Africa with me, where I got some amazing stuff. Until it landed in the ocean. Now, I still have it today because while I was flying it above water, it lost connection and tried to fly home. But because I hadn't calibrated it properly, it just landed in the water, maybe about 10 meters away from shore. But even still, the miracle was that a random bystander saw where it landed and pointed me to it so I could go and get it. Random bikini girl, you'll always be a saint. So I go and retrieve the drone, and it is smoking in the hand. You can smell burnt plastic, it's disgusting, and it's definitely dead. So I take it back to our lodge, and I put the Marlboro Man in our suitcase, and when we get home, I send it back to DJI and get a replacement for 130 bucks minus shipping. Thank God I had the insurance. But think about it, for something that was totally user error, even with the insurance, that's a pretty good price. And DJI customer service gets a big plus from me because they were super helpful, super easy to deal with. It was a great experience. But what's the point of these stories, Dan? All these stories, you're like Falcor, get on with it. All right. The point of that last story was that the drone was only retrievable because it tried to fly back home. Thank you, DJI, for being a premium brand, but it probably would have made it all the way back to shore if I'd bought the slightly higher end drone instead of trying to save some cash. So my ultimate point for this whole video is that if you're buying new products, especially tech products, make sure you wait a little while, unless there's like a really good sale, just so you can see user reviews and if there are any glaring bugs. Buy from a known or established brand, because then even if your product does break or it does crap out on you, at least you know you'll probably be able to get a replacement for free. But God damn it, don't expect them to pay for shipping. And finally, consider spending a fair bit of money if you're gonna buy a tech product that you're gonna rely on, because that gives you that little bit of extra quality assurance, and it just means that you know your product is not gonna fly off into the ocean to live with mermaids. Or something like that. Okay, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. At the moment, I've got like a lot of ideas and plans in my head. I just don't want to execute any of them until I know they can be really good. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for everything I've got coming to you on this channel. Check out all these social links around me so you can see what I'm up to everywhere and anywhere. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe because that's important too. Bye. Cool. Cool.